Okay.
All right. Welcome to It's Electric. My name is Afiz K, and today we have Alex from California, I presume.
San
Welcome.
Jose, California.
That's the one. Please introduce yourself, Alex.
My name is Alex. I'm the host of E4Electric YouTube channel, and I am here in San Jose, California. I've been driving electric cars for over 5 years. Haven't been to a gas station that much. And I have a Tesla Model S.
Awesome. I mean, so what do you do as your day job? Because I know you do have a day job apart from.
Yeah, I still have my day job. So, which is I'm a UX designer for a Fortune 100 company. I've been in graphics and web design for about 20 years now.
Wow, 20 years.
Yes.
So,
too long.
Too long. Well, actually, I also have a day job as well. Most people don't probably know this, but I'm a head of QA at a fintech company in central London. So I guess we also have a day
same
job.
Industry. We're in the same industry. Yeah.
I didn't tell you that, did I? But yeah, we are from the same industry. But obviously, Alex is on the show over here because I'm a big fan of yours, as you probably know. I watch your show.
Thank you.
E4Electric, and I can see how you've grown within the industry. I thought it was a unique opportunity to get you on It's Electric. So first and foremost, the main leading question that I always ask hosts on that come onto It's Electric is, what do you think from your point of view? Because everybody has a different point of view. What do you think are the fundamental structures that needs to be in place for electric cars to be mass adopted?
I think that's no secret at this point. I think there are two main reasons. One is always going to be money for almost everything, right? The electric cars are just too expensive. Let me back up a little bit. The ones that are practical, like Tesla, and we have a few more coming out this year, and even Chevy Bolt, they're still way up there. Definitely Teslas are, and the Jaguar and the Porsches are going to be up there. So the price has to come down for people to be able to afford it, and not just for new cars.
Yeah.
After a few years, Teslas are also going to be used enough where you will be able to buy them for much, much cheaper, right?
Okay.
So that's just going to take some time. But obviously, money is a problem, especially where people don't live in California, and the pricing structure is different.
Yeah.
But the second one is the infrastructure for charging. Now ideally you want to charge at home, of course, and that's not there. I would still call it an infrastructure, because in some cases you just don't have enough power going to a house sometimes. But in a lot of cases here where there is enough power, but people don't have it installed. We do only now have laws where landlords can't get on the way of tenants doing it, but then tenants have to pay, and then who wants to pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 when your lease is only about a year long, and you don't know? It's a gift to the landlord. You're literally adding hundreds of dollars to your monthly rent, and then we go back to the financial issue. And then on top of that, of course, we need to have infrastructure for fast charging, and not only just for traveling, but also for peace of mind, right? So some people do travel more than a certain number of miles a day, and there are cases where, let's say, maybe you have one charger and two electric cars at home, and one of the family members weren't able to get the full charge, and they have to drive around. So we do need fast charging networks for that as well, for people to feel comfortable that they're not just gonna run out of gas. I'm doing air podcast. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So those two, I think, are very, very essential. That has to change, and they are changing just very slowly.
Yeah. I mean, so in what order will you put that? Will you say they need to be affordable first, and then the infrastructure second, or do you think the infrastructure is key, and then the affordability then needs to then be addressed?
I mean, if I had to put one on top of another, I would definitely say financial. Obviously that's without being able to afford it, you're just not going to have a mass adoption of anything.
Yeah.
And I think infrastructure does come second, but as I mentioned, they do rely on each other. They are very much not mutually exclusive.
All right, that's what you see. one of the things that I believe that's made Tesla, obviously you have a Tesla, but and also in Europe over here, and I've done several road trips around Europe. So I've driven from London all the way to Germany, to Italy, back to Paris, and then back to London again. And one thing that I've found that sets Tesla apart is the charging infrastructure. And I think that that is why car companies like obviously Nissan, even Porsche with the Mission E coming out, will probably struggle. And what do you think these car companies need to do to be on the same level as Tesla? Do you think they need to have their own private supercharger network, or do you think there needs to be a private company, third-party, dedicated third-party company that needs to build out this network for this cars to be successful?
So you're absolutely right. The best feature of any Tesla car is not even inside the car. It is the infrastructure that they've built with a supercharger infrastructure. Now, it's not perfect. I have to say that I've admitted this on my show many times, that when I travel, that network is too slow. It's faster than charging at home, but it's not fast enough as fueling. And so let's say when I drive, from the Bay Area, from San Francisco Bay Area to say Los Angeles or Sacramento, which I do, it adds so much time to my trip that it makes it not worth it. And if I'm, if this means that I have to get 2 hours less of 2 hours less of sleep that day, that I'm going to go ahead and choose renting a gas, hopefully hybrid gas car. And yes, me, the electric car enthusiast, for many years will drive a gas car, just because again, the Tesla charging is even supercharging is not fast enough. Plus now, especially here, we have lines. So you can get to the supercharger and have to stand in line for 20, 30 minutes before you can charge for another 45. Yeah. So Tesla's supercharging network does need to be improved, even for people like myself to be comfortable with it. But you're absolutely right. The cars that are out there and the cars are coming out, Porsche and Jaguar and so forth, absolutely must have a fast charging network. Now, I think it would be silly if every single one of them will start building their own network, right? Tesla had to do it because no one else was going to do it for them. And, now we are seeing some signs of that happening. In Europe over there, as you probably know, Ionity is probably one of the best examples. Here we're got Volkswagen paying for ours, because of Dieselgate. Volkswagen was fined so many billions of dollars that a couple of them fell into the lap of U.S. infrastructure, and this is where they're building them up. It's called Electrify America, I believe. But over there, Ionity isn't exactly what everybody else needs. And by the way, so let's talk about Ionity. First of all, it is a much faster charging network than Tesla's.
It's 350 kilowatts.
150 kilowatts to 300 kilowatts, where Tesla's, at some point they're going to build the ones. I think it's going to be a mixture because not all cars are going to be able to take that anyway. So right now they just opened their very first one in Germany, and of course it's at 150 kilowatts. But they're planning to create some with 300 kilowatts. They're going to build 100 of them by the end of this year in Europe, and they're planning to build 400 by the end of next year. So that would be pretty substantial. However, not however. Let's go on with what it's about. The investors, companies that have invested into this network, are Daimler, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, BMW Group, a Volkswagen Group, and for some reason Ford, that doesn't have an electric car really, or is planning.
We don't know about. Maybe.
I haven't heard anything, so maybe they're very much ahead of their own time. But the other ones obviously have a good reason to. And as a matter of fact, there's a report coming out that a few other companies are trying to join, including Tesla, which is not that bad of an idea.
So does that mean that Tesla is coming out with the CCS connector as well?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Tesla has been forced to install and feature non-Tesla connectors in their cars. I believe it was in China where they had to have two. And in Germany, their superchargers had to have non-Tesla connectors and then you had to use an adapter to charge your Tesla, because it was supposed to be open for all, which is silly because there is no other car right now that's capable of supercharging. As a matter of fact, if we get back to Ionity and their 150 kilowatt rate, the only car that's going to be able to charge at that rate is going to be Audi e-tron. That's not coming up until the end of this year. So they're definitely ahead of their time. So to get back to your question, this is exactly what needs to happen, is just on a much larger scale, and not just in Europe. It has to happen, obviously, in the United States, and in China and anywhere else in the world where people want to adopt electric cars. India, by the way, is a country that's been, I have a lot of viewers on my channel that have been asking about it, and they're asking, well, how come Tesla and other cars don't want to come there?
Yeah.
Well, the fact that they don't have any infrastructure, even to power their own homes, sometimes is a big problem.
I mean, absolutely. So I was going to touch on that later on, to talk about, we talk about how electric cars can be mass adopted, but we seem to think that the entire world is just going to mass adopt electric cars. But again, as I told you, off air, I'm from Africa, Nigeria. Most of the time, we don't even have 24 hours electricity. So how can we adopt electric cars? Again, going back to where you're from, where you're actually living right now, there seems to be some sort of bubble, right? Everybody there, and this is my assumption, please correct me if I'm wrong, that electric cars are the future. Everyone will just be driving autonomous electric cars, and they'll be, whereas places like India, continent of Africa, and even in some cases some part of China as well, where I just think that there is this misconception that electric cars will fix everything. Air pollution, global peace, electric cars are going to fit it. And I just think that needs to be addressed. I mean, what do you think about that? Are you of the belief that electric cars will fix everything? I'm sure you're not, but of course.
Well, so I think those are two separate things. Are we here in Silicon Valley in a bubble? So let me address that.
Yeah.
Not only we're in a bubble, I think we have a few bubbles inside, right? Because we are, this is a Silicon Valley where most of the tech is born. We're very high tech here, so we're more likely to adopt the high tech first and be very open to it. Also, this is California, and we are very pro-environment. So any technology that helps with that is welcomed and much adopted much faster.
Yeah.
But most importantly, and this is why you see so many Teslas around here. Seriously, like it almost feels like every other person drives a Tesla here, is because we are in a bubble of housing. What probably soon to be a crisis again, is the houses here cost so much that obviously employers have to pay us so much to afford it, that the prices of the cars are very tiny, I would say, compared to what our salaries are because of the housing. So the Tesla here costs just as much as Tesla costs in,
the UK.
That's Arizona, right? Or Indiana.
Yeah.
But our salaries are about 5 times more because our prices are, ridiculously high.
Yeah.
So we're able to afford it. This is not an issue. The pricing of these cars is not an issue with most people, I would say. So that's why we're in so many bubbles here. But moving to answer your second part of your question, whether or not the electric cars are going to solve everything. Obviously, they're not. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a while until they even solve the issues that we believe they're going to solve, right? A lot of times say, well, you guys are making electric cars, but you're driving electric cars, but you're not really saving the environment because you still have to make them, and a lot of, oil, petroleum products go into the trucks that deliver all this stuff, and the electricity on the Tesla factory,
general carbon
still uses gas.
Yeah, the carbon
right.
is still there. Yeah.
So it's going to be a while until everything is going to be electric around us, and the factories are going to be powered by solar panels and so forth. So it's work in progress, right? But somebody has to start, right? I think it's silly to assume that we can just wave a magic wand and everything's going to be electric and environmentally friendly. So that is one problem we are trying to solve. And whether or not you believe in global warming, that aside, it's hard to argue that something that burns oil under the hoods of our cars is probably bad to inhale. As a matter of fact, there are plenty of studies that have proven that, diesel and petroleum fumes affect people in particular parts of the world enough where there are, quite a few deaths that can be attributed to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen some cities, well, maybe Los Angeles not so much, but quite a few Chinese cities where you literally can see the crap you're breathing in and they can't do it anymore.
I mean, in London over here, there have been studies that have said that, and this is just, studies, but they've said about 9,000 deaths in London are attributed to bad air, just air pollution. So, I mean, yes, electric cars can definitely help. But one thing, so leading on to my next question. Yes, we know that electric cars can help reduce air pollution, but what about congestion? And I know that where you are, as I'm aware, I've not been there, but obviously I'm aware that the traffic over there, the congestion is ridiculous. So electric cars is clearly one part of the, equation in terms of helping us to solve the problem. But what about other means of electric vehicles? So when people think about electric vehicles, automatically they think about electric cars. But obviously, there are other means of transportation, like obviously electric trucks, electric unicycles, electric skateboards. Why aren't those type of electric vehicles being given the spotlight as electric cars?
Well, they're given spotlight because of many reasons, because the cars are sexier and more expensive than scooters, right? So we're going to talk about that more, right? We have gas powered scooters and motorcycles, but we don't talk to them about them as much as we talk about cars. So that's really doesn't really depend on whether or not the cars are electric. But as far applying that technology to traffic, there is no connection. Like electric cars are not going to solve the problem of traffic. What is going to solve the problem of traffic is self-driving technologies, obviously, the infrastructure that will be created for self-driving technologies, and other alternative ways of transportation, like what Elon Musk is doing with his boring company, which is underground tunnels. Electric quadricopters or helicopters or any other means of transportation by air. So electric cars are not going to help with any of that. Yes, you have other, now they're making electric motorcycles. Here in San Francisco, we have this craze with electric scooter ride-sharing service. But that's only because electric technology is just better at this point in many ways than gas. And I don't think people want, scooters as they're walking down the street. They don't want scooters poisoning their lungs, especially here in California. So electric scooters is the answer. All
right. So you mentioned Elon Musk over there, and I know that Tesla obviously has been going through some struggles lately, especially with the Model 3. Can you give us some more clarity? I mean, how is that going? Is this production of Model 3 now increasing? Because over here in the UK, people are probably going to wait another year and 18 months really, until they can get their Model 3. I mean, what is really going on over there? When are we going to get a Model 3 over here? And I mean, Elon promised us this £35,000 electric vehicle. And what is really going on, I guess? Do you know anything that you can share with us?
Right. Well, I mean, most of the stuff that I can share is public, but I can probably rearrange it a little bit, a little bit better than I think a lot of people, including Musk, can actually. I mean, I haven't been hiding this, publicly, that I think he's horrible at sometimes doing PR, and I think he's really bad at being a CEO of the company in some ways, right? He's a great showman and he's a great engineer and an inventor, but he's really bad at being a CEO. And this is why this confusion, right? If you think about it, what they've done with the Model 3 is absolutely unbelievable, right? They started production of this brand new electric car that's never been done before. By their startups that they haven't really automated this much of the conveyor lines ever. And they went from making 30 in July, where now they make about 10,000 in this month, April or so, or if not this month, the next month, which is absolutely amazing. Now, the reason people are concerned are twofold. One is Elon Musk keeps setting his own goals way higher that he can actually achieve. Now, we should be smart at this point and know that he has always delivered everything that he's promised and never has done so at the time when he promised.
Yeah.
So, what's happening is he's doing it again. At some point, he needs to stop. And I think even he's realizing it, because now he's increased his goal to higher than he even promised. So underachieving that goal would be actually achieving his actual goal, which is kind of what I do when I don't want to be late for a flight. And as we all know, it only works once. But let's say it works this time. The problem also is how popular this car is, because, as you know, they're not making them at $35,000 yet. Because and there can be a surprise there, because every time they came out with a new model, they want to make the most money up front to recover their investment. So they're going to make the most expensive one ever. They're going to sell it to their employees first, and then current Tesla owners and Californians and Americans and so forth. So that has always been pretty much the case, except for the employee part, which is only pushing everybody else further. But so $35,000 model comes when they sell as many of the expensive versions as possible to recoup $3 or $4 billion they dumped into it. But because it is so popular and everybody wants to have it, there is, as we know, 500,000 people waiting in line for it. So it's a good problem to have if he could just stop promising something that probably even he knows is not going to happen. I think it would make people less frustrated because their expectations would be a little bit more realistic. So, for example, instead of waiting for your Model 3 right now, I would suggest go ahead and lease a car for 2 or 3 years until you get yours, so you're not frustrated waiting because you now have a car. Or get yourself a used Model S, which will be approximately the same price, can still be under warranty, and you can drive that until you get your Model 3. But if he keeps promising this tomorrow and you believe him, then you're going to be frustrated.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned, the options there. So we're talking about, you can either get a used Model S.
Under warranty. Do not get a used Model S without the warranty. That's
yeah, I've seen some horror videos on YouTube of people just saying, "Well, I Tesla are not going to support me, and I've got this very expensive car on my hands."
Well, even if Tesla does support you, it's going to be very expensive to have it, because it's a very expensive car with high tech. There are also delays in parts because they don't have parts available right away. It's going to be very, very painful.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the Model 3. And what other options are there? Obviously, by the way, I drive a BMW i3, and I think it's a fantastic car. I think it's one of the most underrated electric vehicles ever.
I cannot disagree with you more, but we'll roll with it.
But so what other new electric vehicle options are out there? I know we spoke offline of a car called, is it Byton?
Well, so are we talking about the options that are actually going to be for sale within the next year, or are we talking about the options that are coming up in the future?
Good question. So let's talk about the one that's available now, and then we'll talk about the one that's going to be available in the future. So one now.
But by now, let's include everything that's coming up this year. Okay, so one of us is a Nissan Leaf that just came out with a new body style and a longer range. I would still not recommend. I mean, it's much better than the previous one, especially with the body style. But I would still wait until the end of this year when they have 2019 model. Yeah. They're going to have a completely new battery. They're going to have an active thermal management system, and you will be able to get a range over 200 miles. So that's one. Yeah. Chevy Bolt here in the United States, which unfortunately is not available anywhere else, is also your choice. But this year, we're going to have quite a few others. Porsche Mission E is going to be out in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that, actually.
Jaguar I-Pace is going to be out.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be out by the end of the year. All of these cars I'm going to mention, they have anywhere between 200 and 300 miles of range. And we're going to have an Audi e-tron coming out also by the end of the year. These are the luxury cars. However, I think there are a couple of cars that are going to be bigger than we really thought, because they're not flashy. They're not done by a big brand. But these two cars, I think, are going to be appealing to people who can afford a Porsche Mission E or a Jaguar, as they haven't done that before. Now, these cars are Hyundai Kona Eb and Kia Niro EV. These are two compact, good-looking SUVs, everything that a lot of people, like one of the most popular type of car to have here in the United States and in Europe as well. They're both having a range of anywhere between 220 and 250 miles, and they're most likely are going to be priced somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000. So when you do get those rebates, and some of us, are lucky enough to have up to $10,000 rebates, that is going to be a major financial proposition with an electric car from an established manufacturer with a very, very acceptable range.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fine. But for me, can you just, I've got my top three, by the way. So what is your top three out of those cars? Just all of them. If you had to choose a top three right now, which one would you choose?
If I'm filthy rich and I don't care, I would still, then I would still choose Tesla. Tesla is by far the best car, period, ever. But if I had to pick between those threes, I probably couldn't, because I don't know what the Mission E really looks like yet. And neither do I know that about the Audi e-tron. I would probably be, I love the way the Jaguar looks, but because Porsche is also promising the fast charging network here in the United States, I might actually be swayed for that. But if I had to put a non-refundable deposit, because it's a little cheaper, because I like the look better, and because it's a compact SUV, I would go with a Jaguar I-Pace.
Good choice. Good choice. Yeah, good choice. For me, I will go for the same option as well, and then followed by the Mission E. Actually, yes,
I agree. Mission E. I think the reason I'm Mission E is not as appealing to me is because I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, and also it's just a little.
What is a Porsche? You assume that they will make a car that is probably made for the racetrack as well, even though it's electric. And as we know, Teslas do overheat if you push them a bit too much. But I'm hoping that Porsche will have found a solution to that.
Yeah, but I also want to know what it looks like. To me, the look of the car is important, and also I think their price is a little bit higher than it should be. Where the Jaguar is sort of acceptable. I still think Jaguar is a little too much for what it is. But Porsche is just way too much up there, unless they're going to absolutely blow me away with the performance and the body style and other specs.
Okay, all right. So let's go a bit wider now. We've talked about electric cars, talked about Tesla, we've talked about charging infrastructure. Let's talk about the planet. Do you think clean renewable energy? Do you think we're ready to go 100% clean renewable energy to run our planet right now? And if not, when do you think we'll be ready? This is just your opinion.
Right. Well, I don't think it has anything to do with the planet. It has to do with our infrastructure and commitment to this, right? And a lot of different governments have to agree on this. And unfortunately, my country has just pulled out of the very important Paris Agreement. So that only indicates less commitment, unfortunately. But it also gives an opportunity to other countries to lead, and which could be a good thing as well. I don't see this being even I don't see a green energy being widely adopted, at least in a civilized world, like you were talking about, like maybe Europe and China and North America. At least until 10 years from now. Electric car sales are still about 1% out of all new car sales in the world. It hasn't been growing that much. So there is really no indication that we're going to get there that fast. So I would say 10 years from now, I think it's going to be a force reckoning with, and we can start seeing some, most people agreeing that that's the future, and countries actually passing laws where it would be illegal to sell gas cars, and there will be infrastructure and so forth. But right now, we're in a baby stage right now.
Yeah, but then again, so let's talk about the energy source. So we know that yes, electric cars or electric vehicles in general are only as clean as the energy that or as clean as the energy source. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and in Africa, we went from almost not having telephone till we skipped the dial-up and we just went straight to mobile. And I think the same thing could happen if continent like Africa or even India, because we have so much sun, right? You know, we've got really long coastlines, so we can essentially go from not having a proper grid system to having a renewable, infrastructure. And I guess what I'm trying to get to here is, when do you think the entire planet, or do you think the entire planet can switch to a renewable energy source? And at what time do you think we need to start doing that?
So first, let me maybe adjust your statement a little bit. I don't think the cars, electric cars, as green as its source solely, because even if you get the energy from, let's say, coal-powered, it's still not going to emit CO2s, unlike the gas cars. But you're right. We'll never be 100% if it still comes from burning fossil fuels. So just a little footnote on that one. But to answer your question, it's complicated, right? It's hard to say, because adopting a major technology is really up to the governments. And there are so many different governments with so many different agendas out there that it's hard to say when all of these governments will finally agree on something like this, right? Mm-hmm. You're right. I can see people, some countries skipping having a functioning grid and going straight to renewable energy. Mm-hmm. Also, don't forget, there's a supply and demand. There's supply right now is tiny because the demand is tiny. If tomorrow all governments and all organizations will agree that we want to go solar, there won't be enough solar panels to be sold and electricians to install it. Right. So the technology advances, the supply, just as far as supply chain management and availability, and the government infrastructure and ability and really desire to do this, all have to kind of slowly push each other towards that. And that's why I don't believe it's going to happen that much sooner as we probably hope.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fine. So one last question. What does the future hold for Alex? Tell me.
I'm sorry, say it again. What is...
Yeah, in terms of your E4Electric show, what does the future hold for Alex? What's the next step for E4Electric?
Well, I think I got my channel and my videos in a format that I think my audience likes. So Monday through Friday, I do daily live news shows on Patreon, and I immediately repost it on YouTube. There are so many news that I used to be able to fit it in 3 to 5 minutes. Now I'm closer to 20 minutes. So I see that growing because there are just so many of them coming out. And then on Saturday, I have interviews with either executives of companies or other YouTubers. I'm lucky to have Henrik Fisker join me in a couple of weeks. I just had Zach and Jesse joining me this week. They're one of the biggest Tesla YouTubers. So people like that, they like seeing different, like me, communicate and interview people. And on Sunday, I kind of do like a subscriber hangout where people can ask me questions live, and we kind of go over what happens throughout the week. Now, I also do special reports. I just did one on, I was able to be the first one to interview and have kind of an up-close look at one of the first Tesla solar roofs. I also just did a report from Milan, Italy, where Byton was unveiling their car for the European market, and just other on-location reports, and I kind of mixed them up here and there. So I'm very comfortable with this format. I believe I'm providing a service for those people who either want to learn about what's happening in the world of electric cars, or people who are already involved. They just kind of want to keep up to date, and they're kind of a tech. They just techies, right? And they want to know what is the next thing that's coming out as soon as it's coming out. So I think I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and as you probably know, you kind of just want to make sure that you're providing good service for your audience, and make sure that you add some new services as they are needed.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. It's a pleasure having you on It's Electric, and hopefully we can get you back again when new cars, come onto the market, so you can give us more information. And from me, thank you guys for listening to It's Electric. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Cool.